If you follow this channel, you already know that testosterone is an essential hormone and that its deficit, its deficiency can complicate your life a lot, especially if you are male. We have talked a lot about this hormone in relation to testosterone. I would love for you to have at least 4 things clear. The first would be pay attention, recognize its symptoms. Because of course there are many people who have symptoms of hypogonadism. Some are not several, but they do not recognize them. Therefore they continue with their day-to-day as they can and do not recognize that they have symptoms compatible with a testosterone deficit or with suboptimal testosterone concentrations. So the first thing is to identify the symptoms. We are not going to talk about them here. I've already commented many: fatigue, loss of libido, of desires, irritability, mood changes, loss of strength, difficulty gaining muscle mass, many symptoms that I have already mentioned in other videos. But if you know these symptoms, and I recommend that you go through those videos, then more easily you are going to be able to remedy this situation. The second point would be, once the symptoms have been recognized, to have medical assistance now, so that we really see if what happens to you is a testosterone deficit or not, because this is an objective fact. This is not an opinion. I think I have a testosterone deficit. No, it doesn't work like that. You get a test and you see if your testosterone levels are good or are in the low range of normal or are below the normal range for your age of testosterone. If it is below the normal range, and if this finding is repeated a second time, your doctor will probably remedy it with pharmacological help. If not, they probably won't prescribe any kind of substance. And this is when the information in this video will be very interesting to you, because there are supplements, there are elements that can improve your natural endogenous production of testosterone when we are in a range where we would not consider that we have a testosterone deficit, but we also do not have optimal concentrations for our age. The third point I want you to know is that lifestyle, what we do, conditions a lot. The levels of testosterone you already know. If you smoke, if you drink, if you have an excess of fat, if you are overweight or obese, if you do not rest enough, if your diet is based on ultra-processed foods, if you do not provide the micronutrients that we are going to talk about in this video. All those are factors that depend on our decisions, on our environment, on our surroundings, on our daily vital conditions. And that also conditions the production of testosterone. So take care of your lifestyle as much as you can. Really, as much as you can. It is a great investment. It is the best investment you can make. And finally, and this is where the video comes in, and today, if you are in that low range of normal for testosterone, then maybe what I'm going to tell you today is quite interesting, since there are some micronutrients, some substances, some molecules that when they are deficient, also drag a difficulty for the production of testosterone, and many of them are very unknown. That is, we know them for other reasons, but we do not relate them with the production of testosterone. So without further ado, let's get started. The first one is vitamin D. I've talked at length about vitamin D. You already know that it's not just about calcium, bone health, as was thought a few years ago, but today it's related to muscle health, immune health. It regulates the expression of many genes, and it also seems to be related to testosterone production, because in Leydig cells, which are the cells that produce testosterone, there are also vitamin D receptors. The vitamin D receptor or vitamin D receptor is also found in these cells. So, what happens? Well, we have a very cool study, which is this one, and there are many more, in which either about 3,000 units, they are a little more than 3,000, but about 3,000 units of vitamin D or placebo are given to a series of subjects who are overweight, who are not diabetic, but who have a vitamin D deficiency. And this is the key point I want you to understand. The subjects, all of them, those in the placebo group and those in the vitamin D group, start with a vitamin D deficiency and testosterone levels that are not deficient but are also not very good. That is, they are in that low range of normality. What happens when the time for administering vitamin D passes? What happens is curious, isn't it? It's striking. The group that receives vitamin D has more total testosterone, free testosterone, and bioavailable testosterone than the placebo group. In this way, this intervention study corroborates what was thought. That is, testosterone amounts are related to vitamin D levels. And people who have a vitamin D deficiency, which are many, can you imagine? All people who have a vitamin D deficiency also have more difficulty producing testosterone and, practically speaking, practical things. Where do I get vitamin D? Well, we have foods, for example, egg yolk, for example, salmon. If it's wild, it's much better. The sun, exposure to the sun for about 15 to 30 minutes is more than enough. However, avoiding sun creams as much as possible. We don't need to get burned. 15 minutes, 20 minutes of sun exposure is enough, but with some regularity, it's not enough to expose yourself to the sun for 15 minutes on Sunday and think that you have enough for the whole week. Therefore, foods rich in vitamin D, reasonable sun exposure or supplementation with vitamin D. In this case, about 2,000 units a day are the most standard doses. Okay, 2,000 units of vitamin D daily. So, interestingly, vitamin D concentrations are related to the amount, the production of testosterone. The second point is interesting. It's a hormone. It's a hormone, and I've talked about it on the channel in a specific video about it. It's called Drug Enforcement Administration. It's a hormone, little known. Dehydroepiandrosterone sulfate is what we measure in plasma and blood. It is a hormone produced by the adrenal glands, specifically the reticular layer of the adrenal cortex. And it is a hormone, a kind of mother hormone that transforms into other sexual hormones like testosterone or estrogens precisely. The contribution of testosterone derived from dehydroepiandrosterone in males is very little. In women, it has a relatively greater weight than in men, but in males, it is very little. But what happens? What happens is that dehydroepiandrosterone levels, just like testosterone levels, start to decline. They start to fall from the age of 40, 45, 50 years, and this is also related to greater symptoms of androgen decline. Therefore, many people and authors have thought, what if we supplement dehydroepiandrosterone? What if we give oral dehydroepiandrosterone supplements? And this study is a meta-analysis that reviews what happens when we give that oral dehydroepiandrosterone supplements in people who already have some symptoms of androgen decline. And the result, basically the conclusions, I want to be practical, is that it can improve a bit the body composition, that is fat loss and conservation. I'm not going to say gain, but the maintenance of muscle mass in people who have symptoms of androgen decline. But nevertheless, it does not improve the glucose metabolism. It also did not improve the bone function, the bone quality. It did not even improve the libido in this meta-analysis. That is, the only thing that has been found for dehydroepiandrosterone supplementation is that it can slightly improve. It is not a miraculous change. The body composition in these types of patients, in these men who start with symptoms of androgen decline. Is it worth it, therefore, to supplement with dehydroepiandrosterone? Well, there don't seem to be any serious side effects from taking dehydroepiandrosterone, but to this day it has also not shown great benefits. Therefore, I'm not very enthusiastic about dehydroepiandrosterone. It's not that I make many dehydroepiandrosterone videos and what I'm telling you is what I've read, that the improvements really aren't many. However, we are now entering the field of micronutrients, and one of my favorites is coming up. And this one, you know that I'm quite excited about, is magnesium. Interestingly, magnesium deficiency is related something like with vitamin D. When a molecule is ubiquitous and connected to countless things, exercise caution as that molecule holds significance. Be careful, because what we're talking about, that's important. It happens with vitamin D, it also happens with magnesium. Intracellular magnesium deficiencies are related to lower amounts of testosterone. The mystery here, the scientific mystery, is that we don't know why this happens. It seems, or one of the hypotheses is that the less intracellular magnesium, the more amount of A state of hypercortisolemia nullifies the hypothalamus pituitary gonadal axis, which is the hormonal axis responsible for producing testosterone, because you're going to understand it very easily. When we are in a fight or flight situation, in a situation of acute or chronic stress, our body does not want to divert energy resources to functions that they consider secondary at that moment, such as reproducing. Testosterone, all the functions it provides us, go to reproduction. Spermatogenesis, the creation of secondary characters, everything is directed towards reproduction. And reproduction at that time is not that it is not necessary, it is even counterproductive. So any state of hypercortisolism, of elevation of cortisol above normal values, is going to nullify the hypothalamus hypophysis gonadal axis responsible for the production of testosterone. And it seems that this is the mechanism or function by which the deficit of or magnesium leads to worse levels of testosterone, really. Now we enter into nutritional factors. The first of them is fats. Fats are always talked about, and it's always said, because it's true, that fats are essential in the production of hormones that derive from cholesterol, steroid hormones. Testosterone is one of them. Therefore, a low-fat diet is counterproductive for generating good amounts of testosterone. There is a type of fat that is associated with better testosterone production, which are monounsaturated fatty acids. Where are they? Well, they are in nuts, they are in olive oil, if it is extra virgin better, or they are, for example, also in avocado. Therefore, keep in mind, try to have monounsaturated fatty acids in your diet. Next, fifth point, energy kilocalories. An extremely low-calorie diet quickly depletes the production of testosterone. Well, not quickly. You can have a very hypocaloric period for a very short, very circumscribed time and not see your testosterone concentrations affected. As soon as this extends a little longer in time, problems start. And this is one of the reasons why very restrictive diets should not be maintained for a very long term. I'm talking about more than 23 months. A diet below 1200 calories is disastrous. It's disastrous for the production of androgens. Okay, and it's disastrous for the production of testosterone. There shouldn't be any male in the world on a 1200 calorie diet. And they're still seen. Therefore, keep in mind that without energy, what your body does is cancel out functions that are not essential for survival. And reproduction, sadly, is not essential for your survival. Yes, for the survival of your offspring, but not for yours. Therefore, low energy from the diet means lower testosterone levels. Next, another dietary factor is carbohydrates. And be careful, because I always say that a ketogenic diet, which is a very low carbohydrate diet, is a good strategy, especially if it's going to help you lose fat. If it's going to help you lose weight and you need to lose fat because you have overweight or obesity. But it's a good short-term strategy. For me, it's a strategy, a tool that should be used with an end in mind. That is, this person has to lose fat because their life depends on it. Because it's going to improve their metabolic situation like this. Let's do a ketogenic diet. But maintaining a long-term ketogenic diet in some studies has been linked to worse levels of androgens, especially if it's linked with the previous point and the ketogenic diet is also calorie restricted. So keep it in mind, higher concentrations of intramuscular glycogen are related to more testosterone production. Lower levels of cortisol are related to higher levels of testosterone. Carbohydrates also help to decrease cortisol levels, especially in athletes. All are factors that can interfere with testosterone production. The next one, number 7, is the famous zinc. We have also talked about how zinc and testosterone are very much related. This micronutrient, this mineral, is involved in both the training of sperm and in the follicle-stimulating hormone and LH hormones, which are gonadotropins, and LH specifically is the one that signals the testicle, the Leydig cells, the production of testosterone. Well, for these hormones to be secreted, zinc is needed. And for the sperm to function, let's put it that way, zinc is also needed. Therefore, a zinc deficiency is associated with lower fertility and lower testosterone production due to a lower amount of follicle-stimulating hormone LH. Keep that in mind, it's very interesting. And finally, a supplement that you have probably used or at least know of, which is creatine monohydrate, but combined with HMV, we know creatine monohydrate. It's not a very used supplement that we also produce endogenously, and that is in some animal-based foods. Like, for example, meat helps us perform explosive movements to gain power, to gain strength, increase the number of repetitions that we are capable of doing in the gym. And that's why it's associated with greater muscle mass, with greater hypertrophy, with greater strength, with greater performance, especially in strength sports, explosiveness. But beta-hydroxy-beta-methylbutyrate is also interesting, and it seems that the two have a synergistic action. Beta-hydroxy-beta-methylbutyrate is a metabolite of the amino acid leucine. And it seems that under certain conditions, such as sarcopenia, it improves muscle protein synthesis. Therefore, when they occur together, there seems to be a synergy, a joint improvement. This particular study showed a higher amount of testosterone and a higher testosterone to cortisol ratio in those patients who took the creatine and beta-hydroxy-beta-methylbutyrate supplement together compared to those who did not take it. Keep that in mind as well. The doubt always falls on whether creatine or beta-hydroxy-beta-methylbutyrate directly favors the production of testosterone, which it seems not to. It seems that what really happens is that people who take this supplement train exercise with more vigor, with more strength. And it is this change in training and its variables that really conditions greater testosterone production, greater anabolic hormonal response. So guys, we've reviewed up to 8 elements that can help you produce more testosterone. Remember that the benefit of providing all this falls on you having a deficit. A vitamin D deficiency, a magnesium deficiency, a zinc deficiency, a deficiency of what we've talked about. If your levels of these substances are normal, the benefits may be limited. However, many people suffer from magnesium and vitamin D deficiencies. Therefore, I think it's super important that you know this information. So thank you very much for your attention. See you in the next video. A big hug and keep empowering.